But first, watch out, Cadles about.
Underwater rocks and reefs have been the bane of shipping since mankind first went to sea. In this week's programme, we're going to be looking at the structures we've built to try and protect ourselves against them. The lighthouses. With our enormously long and rugged coastline, the southwest has a greater concentration of lighthouses than anywhere else in the country. In a horseshoe of lights that flash from Lynmouth to Portland Bill, you can count 22 of them. And one lightship on the famous Seven Stones Reef. Lighthouses go right back through the mists of time to the seven wonders of the ancient world and the Pharos of Alexandria. It was an absolutely enormous thing, standing 400 feet high. That's the equivalent of a 40-story skyscraper. It stood in ancient Egypt at the mouth of the Nile, an enormous pyramid-like structure held together with molten lead. Bizarre building technique, but it clearly did the trick, because it stayed up for over 1,500 years, only falling down comparatively recently in a massive earthquake. Our own history with lighthouses goes right the way back to the Bronze Age, when the ancient Phoenicians used to journey here from the Mediterranean to trade with us for tin. Nowadays, we take lighthouses pretty much for granted, but it's only 300 years since the first offshore one was built on the Eddystone Reef, 15 miles from Plymouth. It was knocked up by a crazy old inventor by the name of Henry Winstanley back in 1698. Now that first one wobbled like mad in the winter storms, so the following year he knocked it down and built himself a new one. He was incredibly proud of his lighthouse, and one of his greatest desires was to be inside it during an enormous storm. Unfortunately, this was one of those wishes the Tooth Fairy chose to grant when one of the biggest storms of all time came barrelling in on the 27th of November 1703. Winstanley and his men were inside the lighthouse carrying out repairs when it struck. Conditions were horrendous. The waves were up to 150 feet high, and a lot of people were killed up and down the coast. The following morning, when the storm had abated, the Plymouth lookout could no longer see any sign of the lighthouse, so a little boat was sent out to go and investigate. They couldn't find the structure, Winstanley, or his men. Their bodies were never found. So, those are the beginnings of lighthouses, but for now, we're going to start from the end of an era. Behind me is the Lizard Lighthouse, the last manned lighthouse here in the southwest. But in the next few days, it's going to become fully automated.
They started this one off in 1752, but the first buildings were here in 1600, in the early 1600s.
So that would have been things like braziers and just braziers, is that the right word?
I think it
no,
is.
Stop at brass.
Braziers.
That's bonfire.
Bonfire, yeah, bonfire. That's what it was, yeah. And of course that upset the local people, and they attacked the lighthouse keepers or the people that manned it.
I suppose it sort of got in the way of the wrecking a bit.
That's correct. I mean, if you look around you, you see the three headlands and how it was done. We'll say early in the evening they put a fire there. Of course, the sailing ship coming from the Atlantic, loaded, would see that. Then 6 hours later, they would change it from there, put it on this point.
Sheesh.
And then 6 hours after that, they put it on that point. So then, of course, the ship then, by this time, thinks he's around the Lizard Point, isn't he?
Yeah.
So around he comes, smack right in. So, of course, locals didn't want to light here, did they? because it takes away their living.
So when did they finally accept the lighthouse here?
Oh, I suppose it must have been in the late 1600s.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So, how does this all work?
Well, what you're looking at now is one of the most famous lights in Britain. It is the last one they see when they go, when they leave this country, and it's the first one they see when they come back. Now, this is the original light. Not one piece has ever been changed. It's nearly 70 years old. And what happens is, this light throws a light 25 miles. It's 1,020,000 candle power. The light comes on. The curved bits at the bottom pick it up, magnifies it, and then throws it to the opposite side. So the power is concentrated through the bullseyes. That whole thing revolves in 12 seconds. So the character of the lizard light, and it'll be the only one in Great Britain with that particular character, will be one white flash every 3 seconds.
It's sitting on the most enormous base here that it's rotating on.
That's right, it is all floating on a bath of mercury. And if that was stopped, I could push it around with my baby finger.
It's all like electric now, I imagine.
All
Driving
electric
it
now.
around.
A little 1.5 horsepower electric motor drives it
You
around
could
now.
drive your lawnmower on that, couldn't you?
No problem.
So how's that technology going to change all this for you? I mean, your role up to now has been what here, really?
Well, put it this way, the only difference it's really going to make to me is I don't have to do a night watch. And the strange thing is it's going to be strange for me to get used to Harwich in Essex ringing me up, telling me my light's out when I live right underneath it.
Trying to build a lighthouse out in the middle of the sea on a little rock is a tricky old game. In an effort to try and show you just how tricky it is, me and my mate Ken are going to try and build one of our own.
Oh, you're quite into lighthouses, aren't you, Ken?
I am, Jerry, yes.
How did that all start?
Well, 5 generations of my family have been keeping lighthouses for 181 years.
That must pretty much go right the way back to the start of lighthousing time, doesn't it, here
Well,
in Britain?
not really, because lighthouses have been around in Britain for well over 500 years.
Ah, yes, so it's still a reasonable way down the track
Absolutely,
there. Yeah.
yes.
Now, the question with ours, Ken, out here on our storm-tossed rock, which is a bane to all shipping, what are we going to make it out of? It's going to be wood or stone, stone or wood? What do you reckon?
Well, we could build it out of wood because people have been building ships out of wood for thousands of years. But there is one problem, and that is, of course, that wood burns.
Winstanley's shattered lighthouse was replaced on the Eddystone by a wooden one in 1709, built by a guy by the name of John Rudyard. It stayed up for 46 years until it burnt down in a terrible fire. The keepers managed to escape and took shelter in a cleft in the rocks, but as the lighthouse burnt, its lead roof melted and great gobbets of molten lead rained down on the sheltering men. One of them, 94-year-old Henry Hall, 94, looked up to see what was going on with his mouth open, and a great gobbet of molten lead went straight down his throat. The fire was spotted from Plymouth, and the keepers were rescued, but poor old Henry Hall died 12 days later from a nasty case of lead poisoning, coupled with a little bit of internal burning as well. When they opened him up for a post-mortem, they found this bit of lead in his stomach, weighing over ½ a pound.
Poor old Henry Hall! What a horrible way to go.
Very grisly.
Ugh. So, it's stone for us. Well, I think we're going to need one of these for our lighthouse out there. Nice bit of Cornish granite. Very best thing for your lighthouse manufacture. Very, very solid. As you'll notice around the sides, it's got these almost dovetail joints. And by locking these stones together, you can make the lighthouses utterly, utterly solid. So we'll have one of those for our lighthouse up on the rock. Just need another few years down the gym, and then we'll get it out there. Or, in our case, breeze blocks. Ugh. Thank you, Ken. But already we're having a bit of bother out here. Foundation's very unfirm, very tricky getting this thing to stay up. And then we've got a bit of problem with our cement as well, just can't get the stuff to set. It's probably best we go and look at one that somebody prepared earlier. All right there, Ken?
No.
It was the guy that built this place that really cracked the problem of how to stick a few 100 foot of rock vertically on top of another rock that's being smashed by waves out in the middle of the sea. This is Smeaton's Tower, designed and built by John Smeaton in response to the still unresolved problem of how to stick a lighthouse that would last 15 miles out that way on the rocks of the Eddystone Reef. After the failure of the two previous wooden ones, Smeaton decided to go for a world first and build his tower out of stone. The only problem was, the technology just didn't exist at the time to do it, so he had to invent his own. After much trial and error, he came up with his own quick-drying cement that would dry no matter how much seawater was on top of it. He went out to the reef and cut steps in it, and then made incredibly strong foundations by building stone blocks that were interlocked with dovetail joints between each of them. And he built special giant cranes to lift the massive granite blocks that form the bulk of the superstructure. But despite all these inventions and innovations, the tower was still only lit by candles, and only 24 of them at that. Unfortunately, the reef that it was built on wasn't, and it started to crumble away. So they had to build yet another lighthouse on the rocks further along, and when that one was finished, the people of Plymouth paid for Smeaton's Tower to be dismantled and rebuilt out here on the Hoe. This is the Wolf Rock, just over 8 miles southwest of Land's End. It's an underwater crag that's been a graveyard for an enormous number of ships. The rock was tamed by James Douglas, the same chap who built the Eddystone Lighthouse. It wasn't easy to build, as the dreadful weather only allowed about 22 days of actual building in a year. And even then, the construction crew had to be tied onto the rocks with safety lines. It was finished in 1869 and boasts the first ever lighthouse helicopter pad. There was a bizarre incident in 1969 when one of the keepers went missing. He was last seen fishing from the winch room window.
So what do you reckon happened out there on the Wolf then, Ken?
I think he just got washed away. He was probably fishing from one of the higher windows, and a big wave came along and washed him out.
Or just stuck around the back of the tower, caught
That's
him unawares?
right. A lot of people forget that the waves quite regularly go right over the lighthouse.
Now that old Smeaton character, he had a few really cunning plans with that tower of his, didn't he?
He did. He invented all kinds of new engineering gadgets. He even designed the tower to match that of an oak tree so it would deflect the waves better.
God, but the whole thing was still only lit by candles. Seems a bit of a shame, really.
You can't imagine seeing 24 candles more than a couple of hundred yards away, can you?
Yeah, it seems almost pointless going to all that effort with only a few candles.
That's right.
Oh, well.
How many more, Jerry?
Only another few hundred, Ken. You're doing very well.
This is the Bishop Rock Lighthouse, west of the Isles of Scilly. Standing on an isolated rock no bigger than the base of the tower, it must surely be one of the most difficult sites for a lighthouse anywhere in the world. The main structure was completed in 1858, but you can't see it because they built a new tower on top of it. It's two lighthouses, one inside the other. Building lighthouses like the Bishop on tiny, inaccessible rocks is an incredible feat. But some places are just about impossible to build on. And unfortunately, those are often just the sort of places where you could really use a lighthouse. But there is a solution to the problem. If you can't build on a rock, you can always drive one of these puppies up alongside it and chuck an anchor over the side. It's a light vessel. The region's operational light vessel lies off the deadly Seven Stones Reef between Land's End and the Isles of Scilly. Far too dangerous a place for us to be able to get on board. But we've been able to wangle our way onto this old derelict one. It's lying up in the Tamar. So let's see what we can find. Hello, Roy. Oh, now you worked on light vessels for many a year. What were they like to live on?
Well, pretty dicey, pretty rock and roll.
So where would you have slept?
Slept in one of these bunks.
Don't look terribly big.
No. Well, the way of doing it was to get in, sit in, legs over, and wedge yourself in. Bottom against one end, and back against the other. And then hope for the best.
So when did you first start working on these, Roy?
Immediately on leaving the Navy,
And that was when?
1959.
Do you see many changes in that time since you,
Yes,
since you retired?
The original tenders were steam, the old steamboat. The modern ones were diesel. And when we started, we did it by boat. And towards the end, became helicopter reliefs.
God.
The light itself, was that solidly stationary inside that tower, pitching around with the boat?
No, it was mounted on gimbals. So
So-
no matter which way the ship tossed or turned, the light would remain comparatively level.
How many of you were on board?
Well, when I started first, we had 7, the master and 6 crew. But they reduced it to master and 4.
Did most people get on with the job fine, not find it too difficult being out here and isolated at sea?
No problem. I mean, 1 or 2 might not get used to the job and request to go ashore again.
You have any people going slightly crazy out here?
Well, I did see one standing in the turret one day, swinging spaceships away.
Trying to call them in. Do you have problems with pulling your anchor and coming off station?
No, you pull in or pay out your cable depending on ferocity of the storm.
I see, so it's a pretty massive anchor. The chances of
Yes.
that actually moving was slim.
4 ton.
But if it did move, could you then start your engine up and just move back on
No.
station and drop it again?
They're fitted with no engines whatever.
Good Lord, I never knew that. I always
No.
thought these things...
There's no propulsion unit whatever.
Now, what was the worst disaster you've ever had occurring near you in a light vessel?
Torrey Canyon. She was coming up through the stones and she altered course to starboard. Why? We don't know.
And that was in daylight, was it?
Yes.
So she must have known exactly where she was and been able to see you and
Yes.
everything else. And what were the conditions like? They're good conditions?
Well, the sea was practically the same as it is here. After that, I think that was when Harold Wilson decided to get her blown up.
Well, we're making some progress, but the weather's closing in. One of your main problems with your lighthouse manufacture, your weather. We've never known an afternoon like it. Just imagine being out there on the Bishop trying to build that lighthouse, Atlantic rollers crashing in all around you, and that's on a good day. How long does it take them, Ken?
It took them years, Jerry, because they could only go out there when the tide was down low, and of course during the good working season, which was really from about May till October. They had to take a lot of special precautions, and they'd get special boats that they would moor up some distance from the rocks, and then they transport the men from the ships to the rocks in small boats.
They have ropes and things to tie themselves on just in case any rollers came over the top.
That's right, they had to be prepared for anything.
God, sounds like a nightmare. But of course it wasn't just the weather, was it? And if you look at old Winstanley up there, first lighthouse on the Eddystone, he had the French too, didn't he?
That's right. He did have an English frigate there to protect him, but of course the frigate had to go ashore for provisions occasionally. It just happened that on the day that it did, a French man of war came in and took Winstanley captive.
Because we were at war with them at the time, weren't we?
We were. Winstanley was taken back to Paris, and eventually he managed to meet the King Louis himself, and when King Louis found out he was building a lighthouse, he let him free.
Well, these lighthouses are all well and good, wonderful navigational aids and protecting you from hazards and all that. But at night, how do you know which lighthouse is which and which hazard you're being warned against?
Well, of course, every lighthouse has its own characteristic. It's almost like a fingerprint. It flashes out a certain sequence of lights which sailors can recognise.
Behold the Eddystone Lighthouse.
For most of us, the best view we can hope to get of the modern Eddystone Lighthouse is through a telescope back on land. But today we've got permission to fly out there to take a closer look. Bill here used to be a keeper out there on the Eddystone many years ago. He's coming along to show us around. When did you last come out to the Eddystone, Bill?
1979, by boat.
Ah,
It was hairy at times.
You're pleased to see the helicopter arrive then?
Helicopter was a godsend, but whereas with the boat, rough seas would stop you, but not fog. Now with the helicopter, the wind doesn't matter, but fog does. So, all right, with the boat you could be a week, 2 weeks overdue, But with the helicopter, maximum overdue was a couple of days.
Oh. So here we are inside the Eddystone, but where are we?
This is the kitchen, but it wasn't only your kitchen. This was your bathroom, your lounge, just about everything other than the bedroom. It seems as though there's quite a bit of room in here now.
Yeah.
Because all that surface working area has, been put in very nice. But it wasn't like that before.
It's almost got the feeling of a ship, hasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What sort of things did you use to rely on food back then?
Well, you brought all your food out with you for the month that you were here. You'll appreciate that the meat that they brought wouldn't keep. So they used to pot it. They used to boil all their meat up on the first day and then stick it in glass jars with fat inside the jars and contained, and that way the meat would keep. And then whatever you wanted for your meal, whoever was the morning watchman was the duty cook for the day.
Right. Where did you go to the loo?
Well, if you wanted a pee, in strategic windows around the lighthouse are half sawn off plastic cans, and it was a case of open the window, pee in the can, throw it out the window. First making sure that it wasn't low water and one of your mates was walking down below. If you had to go to the other, then it was downstairs on the throne. You could sit there with the bottom doors open and wave to the trippers in the boat.
Doors open.
But obviously, you use the toilet sparingly because the water is like gold dust on the lighthouse, because every ounce of fresh water has to be brought by the helicopter.
It's actually incredibly comfortable in here. Quaint and bijou. Banana bunks they're known as, because they're not sort of large and they bend round inside the tower. Once you're in them, you don't really want to get out. But I'm going to have to. Oh, dear. At least it's not like a ship where this thing will be going all over the place when you're getting out. Room for how many men in here, Bill?
5, Jerry. I'm perched on the smallest bunk. Being the smallest person, this would be my spot. And supposedly these bunks are designed so that you can't sleep on your back. So you have to sleep on one side or another.
Brilliant.
To stop the snoring. But it didn't always work. I was one of the world's worst, I'm afraid.
What did you used to do with yourselves when you were out here, when you went on duty?
You fished with a kite. The Eddystone was well known for good fishing, especially bass.
Oh, we go. Now, what do you fancy? Let's go up. Nice bit of cod. Haddock, perhaps. Well, I think we'll call our kite fishing attempt a disaster. Now, 300 years ago this year, Winstanley lit the very first lighthouse out here on the Eddystone. And with the march of technology and everything going automatic like this place, I wonder if there'll still be one out here in another 300 years' time. Let's hope so.
Oh, I'm feeling sick now, Rog.